Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of the Capitalize Your Best podcast. My name is Gordon Duncan. I'm the owner of Capitalize Marketing and Consulting. And this show is part of the larger Capitalize Your Best podcast network of shows. On Mondays, we have This Is Going to Hurt. That's our personal growth podcast where we help you make a better you. Tuesday is Coach Training Partners, where we help coaches create programs, grow their revenues. Today is Wednesday, our Capitalize Your Best marketing podcast. Thursdays, we have a live coaching call. And Friday, we have You're Entitled to Your Opinion, which is our pop culture podcast. But I really want to jump right in because we have a guest. We are incredibly honored. We have my good friend Tom from the Shout It Out Loudcast. I've been listening to the show for 6 years. We've become friends. I've been honored to be on the sidecast Storm Damage. But today, we want to talk about horror movies of all things, because in the world of marketing, in the world of revenue growth, streaming networks, box office, horror movies are more and more bankable. And we're coming off a season where we have movies that came out of nowhere, made for nothing, made a lot of money. And I wanted to talk about that, but I thought, well, who else better to talk about it than my friend Tom? So, Tom, thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate you being here.
Gordon, thanks so much for having me. Love it. We always talk about horror back and forth. We have the Facebook group, and so I think it's a great discussion to talk about horror and the business of horror, and I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here. And the season we're in, like, if you have any sense of pop culture, any sense of movies, or even just day-to-day news, horror movies, up until this past week with the Odyssey, horror movies have been the topic of entertainment. And the two in the room are Obsession and Backrooms. And they, like, CNN is, I'm at the gym and I'm seeing CNN talk about Obsession and Backrooms. Like, where is this coming from? So first of all, Tom, have you seen both of those? Have you seen Obsession and Backrooms?
I have seen both, yes.
Okay, I've seen both as well. I've seen Obsession twice now. Backrooms
Mhm.
will get a visit. But Tom, outside of Silence of the Lambs or Blair Witch, maybe, there really haven't been many times like this where horror movies are leading the pop culture conversation. Why do you think it is?
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about this because I think it's twofold with Obsession and Backrooms, and I think people are really craving like original stories. And I know that people say, well, Obsession isn't original. It's the age old kind of monkey's paw
Sure,
plot
sure.
story. Backrooms is kind of like, the internet lore. But it's still, for people that don't follow those types of things, it's still an original
Mhm, mhm.
non franchise type of horror, right? Both young directors that people are excited for, both with no name actors, which people get excited for, right? So I think, and the other thing I was thinking of too, and I think this would be kind of interesting to discuss too, is that the state of horror kind of reflects where we are as a society. And if you look back at like the 70s, like people talk about the 70s as like,
Mhm,
really like
mhm.
legit, like the golden age of like original horror. And in the
Yeah,
70s, you had obviously so much turmoil with you coming off Vietnam and Watergate and stuff. Even
right.
in the 80s, you had the slasher era and you had Reagan and you had the Cold War and things. And right now, obviously, regardless of where you stand culturally, politically, there's a lot of upheaval in the country, and usually when there's a lot of that, horror tends to really thrive. I mean, even right after 9/11, that's where we got the Saw franchise, the Hostel franchise,
Yep. Yeah.
real gory things. And I think people kind of come to horror to try to deal with like maybe the real world things that they're dealing with, and it's a way to kind of release those that anxiety, that energy, those nerves, those, and just kind of experience it with friends and in a community where it's like safe.
Well, there's two great points there. Well, I'll jump on each one of them. That first one about horror being that genre. I've got a friend in California named Leon Brown. He's a young filmmaker. He's done a couple of small horror films, and he made the point. He said horror's the really only place you can have an honest conversation about any topic.
Yep.
He's like, you can take childhood issues, you can take adult issues, marital issues, you can take war. Like it does. I mean, we can go into zombies. I mean, like he says it's the most honest genre because any topic can be used and discussed, and
Perfectly said.
it's going to open up like how you feel about it, the more honest it is. Because you and I've seen literally a million horror movies. I'm like, it's just a repeat of a slasher film. And listen,
Yep.
I love a good slasher film. But when all of a sudden, you've got a movie like Heretic, all
Mhm.
of a sudden
Awesome.
all of a sudden we're wrestling with religious issues,
Mhm.
older to younger relationships. I mean, all that gets drawn in there,
Mhm.
and there's just not. I mean, you can't do that in comedy. I love comedy, but then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's too dark. It's dark comedy, or But in horror movies, every topic, and there's plenty of angst to talk about right now in horror movies. I'm waiting for the big political horror movie to come out. Maybe that'll be what you and I work on. But you're right. It's where we can have these conversations, right?
Yeah. It's so true, and you're right, like, and I think that's why, I mean, and I love, for people listening, if they're not, familiar, if they're horror fans and they wanna have some fun, the Chamber of Thrills, our Facebook group, it
Go ahead.
continues to grow, and it continues to have, like, great discussions, people sharing what they've watched and what they don't like, and I think the other thing too about horror, and I kinda hinted at it earlier, unlike a lot of the other genres, it is an incredibly communal thing. Like, if
Mm-hmm.
I've been to a horror convention before. I know most people go to, like, Comic Cons and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
but, like, the community, like, that shared experience, and I know a lot of people think horror fans like, "Oh, you guys, the bunch of weirdos and stuff," and maybe we are, but that's okay, who cares? But I think you really said something that I think makes perfect sense, is that horror is a vehicle to tell any story that you want,
Yeah.
whether you tell it literally, symbolically, thematically, and we've seen it done extremely well, and we've seen people try really hard and it just falls flat. And and the other thing too, and we can kind of get into this too, I think the age of streaming has made horror that much more twofold successful, but then you also get inundated with a bunch of people who are trying to throw something up against the wall and see if it sticks, right?
Well, Tubi has one good horror movie for every nine.
Exactly.
But when you find that one, I'm
Yep.
texting you like, Tom,
Yep.
you may never have heard of this, but it's going to take you someplace. Those are the kind of things that. And you know what? A bad slasher film is still sometimes real. I mean, I'll watch a giant shark movie in a heartbeat. I have no apologies for that.
Yep.
I will watch we were both waiting for that Thrash on Netflix to come out. We're
Oh,
like, new shark movie coming out. But what you mentioned earlier is part of the conversation. Original horror. So
yep.
the term in Hollywood they use is IP, intellectual property, and
Yep.
so they're purchasing. So we just got this past summer. No one wanted a live action Moana 10 years. 10 years ago that was an original thought. 10 years later, it's not.
Mhm.
Masters of the Universe, which I'm sad to say I saw, was not fun enough to be fun, but not entertaining enough to be entertaining. But and they're getting ready to reboot GI Joe again. And I get it, but they own these things, and they're like, we own the potential of three films, and those movies combined are going to lose $250 million. But however, you can spend um, 15 million making Evil Dead Burn, which just came out, and I just checked as of today, worldwide, 50 million. That's
Amazing.
not huge, but no one lost any money.
Yep.
And when it hits streaming, you and I are going to watch it more than once. And so,
100%.
what is it about the need for non-intellectual property films that we're so hungry for right now? What is it?
Well, I think so. I grew up, or at least my son grew up, and it's the best and the worst of what happened. I think the Marvelization of movies, like the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that we've experienced over the last 20 years, for the most of it, I absolutely loved it. I saw all the movies in the theater with my son. He's going to be 22, and I still see the new Marvel
Mm-hmm.
movies. We're
Mm-hmm.
excited for Spider-Man. As of this recording, the trailer for Avengers Doomsday came out.
Yeah.
But but
Yeah.
but 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 in between all that, there was a lot of exhaustion. Like, how many Captain America movies can we make? How many Ant-Man movies? How many Doctor Strange movies?
The TV shows, all of it.
The
Yeah, it's too
TV
much. Yeah.
shows. Zeus and I talked about it, like, with the same thing with Star Wars. Like, and people want something fresh. Something, you know what it is? They want to go into a movie theater. not knowing anything about the story or the actors, because I think the other thing too is the everybody likes a Hollywood superstar. Everybody loves a Tom Cruise blockbuster or a
Right.
Leonardo
Right.
DiCaprio blockbuster. But there's something to be said about going into a movie and really not having any preconceived notion about the people that you're seeing on the screen, which I think is one of the big things about Obsession. You could have had Jenna Ortega play that starring role, and she's been in
Yeah.
everything. You
Yes.
could have done that. But I think part of that success was that really nobody knew any of these people. They were not household names.
Hmm.
And the movie
Hmm.
was made for what, $700,000. I
Isn't that
mean,
insane?
yeah. So I
It's
think,
over 400 million now. That's
yeah,
crazy.
I think the IP it just gets exhausting. It just gets exhausting for
Well,
people.
when
And I really feel like these corporations think it's the easy way out when, like you just said, I think the opposite is true. The easy way out is horror. It doesn't cost a
Mhm.
lot of money and you are guaranteed to make money.
Well, that's why Blumhouse and A24
Yep.
exist right now, because they're going
Yep.
to put out 6 movies a year, and all 6 will be profitable. They're not Avatar, which somehow made $1.5 billion and probably lost money, which is an insane reality for that. But going back to the actors, um, when you have these giant movies, you feel like you have to pay an actor to bring in the crowd,
Oh,
so
absolutely.
that you're like, okay, we've invested $150 million, but we're also got to have an actor here
Yep.
who we're going to get a draw from. But the problem is sometimes you feel like I'm watching the actor, not the movie. So I have not seen Odyssey yet. I just want to go out there. My daughter Emma, who helped start this podcast, You're Entitled, she saw it.
Yep.
She enjoyed it, but she said the problem was there's so many A-list actors. She was like, "Oh, hey, look, Tom Holland's in this movie. Oh, hey, look, Zendaya's in this movie," and she was so much of that that she no longer felt like she was watching the Odyssey. She felt like she was watching A-list actors acting.
Mhm.
And with horror, you get, I don't know who these people are. Like, I mean, I want to know. Like, because I don't feel like Leonardo DiCaprio's got to, learn how to be obsessed with his girlfriend in the movie.
Right, right. Yeah, it's true.
So,
I think, you know, a couple things too, and we've kind of hinted at it already, about the financing of horror. In Blumhouse, to his credit, and to his detriment. I mean, let's be serious. Blumhouse is now getting into the business of throwing everything up against the wall and hoping
yes.
it sticks. But like you said, there's money to be made. Even a bad horror movie is going to make money. And
Yes.
whether that's theatrical money, streaming money, or physical copy Blu-ray money, it's going to make money. And a lot of these movies, me and you, we grew up in the era of video rental stores. How many movies, quote unquote, bombed at the box office, but then became classics because they were on cable and the rental business went through the roof. That's what happens with a lot of these things. So I think these guys make these movies knowing, you know what, this might not be great, but in the era of social media and streaming, this has legs once it gets to Shutter or Prime or whatever. So I
Well, I'll
really think
use
it's and I think the other thing too, a lot of these, let's be serious, Hollywood is a bunch of snobs for the most part. And
yes.
and horror is considered, generally speaking, the lowbrow genre. But then
Right.
you have young guys come in and they're doing Obsession, they're doing Backrooms, they're doing things like Hokum. I haven't had a chance to see that one yet.
Mhm,
Movies
mhm.
like that, The Evil Dead, which is a big IP franchise. These people need to stop paying attention to what's going on and realize we don't need another GI Joe movie. We don't need another Masters of the Universe movie. And if you're going to give us a Marvel movie, give us a good Marvel movie, not Ant-Man 5.
Right. Right. I mean, think about scary movie, not Scary Movie 7, but Scream 7. Scream
Oh,
7.
Scream. Oh
So
god, don't even get me going on that
so
franchise.
I saw it. And by the way,
Yeah,
Scream 1, one of the better horror movies ever made. Like, just
absolutely.
original.
Yep,
I mean, yeah, it's a repeat movie, right? It's like The Matrix. You can just on the background.
yep.
That movie still made $200 million, and is streaming like crazy. I think it's on Paramount right now. But what we're seeing is, if the IP is so worn out that, like, I mean, it you're seeing it almost out of obligation, and it's finally like it needs to be rebooted in 5 years. Like it needs a break because there's just nothing left to say in that franchise. So yeah, the problem is when they do get big, then all of a sudden they start knocking them out, and you get every 2 years, and you're like, give the material some kind of breath. What are we at? We have both Insidious and The Conjuring coming out, right? Aren't
Oh
those
my
coming
god.
out soon?
Yeah, there's another one.
I love them
They
both, right? I love those
milking
franchises.
milking it dry. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I love the first two Conjurings. I think are for. I might actually like part two better than the first one. Part three at the most recent one was just not good. Now they want to do like a prequel about the early years of Ed and Lorraine. Whatever. Insidious. I don't even know what number they're up to now.
I don't either. I don't know. It's the
It's
same guy, so I get confused sometimes. And
yeah,
so,
yeah. They
what
they
I
milk it
think
and
that
milk it.
I think the future, what we're going to see here is since we had three YouTubers this year make
Mhm.
successful horror movies, good or bad, we're going to have YouTubers making horror movies, right? I mean, like it's right after we had Blair Witch, the found footage world took off. And there's some great found footage movies. I mean, like there really are. But I think what we're going to find coming up is there's going to be a lot of YouTubers coming out there, and we're probably going to have to wade through a lot of mess, a lot of mess. But Tom, how would you fix? Well, we don't have a problem yet. Right now, we have genre, we have horror taking a place, and it's making money, and that means we're going to get more of it. So it spans. We're going to get more things to choose from. I think 5 of the top 20 movies this year are horror based in some way. How do we not let the problem happen again in the horror movie industry? Like, how do we not get back to the glut that we've had before?
I think the one thing that you know Backrooms and Obsession, those two are the kind of like the pillars of the conversation here. I think the one thing those proved, and that hopefully Hollywood and movie producers will understand, is that this is what people want. Okay, pay attention to what people want. Okay, but the problem is, like you mentioned, it's the copycat genre. It happened in the 80s with hair metal. It happened in the 90s with grunge. Hey, this is successful. We can pump this out. No, you can't, because
Yeah.
Tora is not the same as Def Leppard. Okay, it's not.
Dude, you're gonna upset the Tora tards there, by the
Exactly.
way.
Exactly. And you're going to continue to milk these things. They did it with Saw. I mean, hell, they did it with Halloween and Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. They
Yeah,
keep
very
milking them
much so.
and
We
milking
don't
them.
need
And
another Freddy. By the way, we both saw that. Like,
yeah,
I don't
please,
want.
no.
I do not care ever again. But
I think the way to fix it is to encourage new new stories, new creators, new writers, young people. And I think that's the thing that Curry Barker with Obsession and Kane Parsons with Backrooms hand the baton over to the young people. Okay, you guys, all the older guys they've done their stuff. All the legends are either passed on or gone. The John Carpenter, Wes Craven, and Toby Hooper, and all those guys, they're all older or gone. Give it to the young guys, and also too, encourage original material and encourage young actors to come up and do this. Again, we're going to see copycats. The YouTuber thing is going to be copycats, but the wallet speaks. You're a marketing man. You're a businessman. People
100%. And
people are
yeah,
going back to the theaters to see things they want to see. Christopher Nolan, he's going to make a movie. It's going to sell out. It's going to make $1 billion, right? Young original horror is going to make money. Every time there's an original horror movie, it makes money. It might not be great, but it's going to make money.
well, what's happening with the TikTokification of media consumption is there now like mini TikTok studios are being created.
Yeah.
And so whereas me, I'm handheld just doing my own content. There are now studios that are now like creating TikTokers. Not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it kills. But what I would love to see is some horror incubation where people are allowed to create or enabled to create horror channels with a movie in mind. Because Backrooms I enjoyed, but there's parts of it I'm very critical of.
Sure.
because the TikTok series was fantastic. Like it was just, and it wasn't created with a movie in mind. You could see, well,
No.
let me create a mythology around. That's always dangerous. So I'm hoping that with this new growth that there'll be some incubation. Like
Yep.
create a TikTok channel, but you've already worked out the story
Hmm.
and you use it as free marketing to launch something. That would be amazing. If you could draw me in with that. I mean, are you watching any mini-sodes on TikTok right now? Are you familiar with this?
I'm familiar with it, but no, my attention span on TikTok is a problem.
Well, that's the thing. I
I'm a
mean,
doom scroller.
yeah, so they've got all these little mini-sodes coming out where
Yeah.
like they're making shows 60 seconds at a time.
Yeah.
And that's happening. There's even a TikTok even created a new app for it, but nothing has broken through yet. A lot of it's
Yep.
really schlocky. A lot of it's got bad AI. I mean,
Yep.
it's exactly what it is. But
Sure.
there's a young 14-year-old out there somewhere who's got some
Yep.
creepy idea that could become. I think that would be great instead of just finding some guy with 24 million TikTok followers and like, great, now you get to make a movie. You get to make
Yeah.
a movie. Unfortunately, it's probably what's going to happen. So, did
The
you
other thing.
see? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, I was going to say one thing that we talk about the big the big corporations, right? And I think, I know this is kind of like pie in the sky, but and I mentioned earlier about letting the kids get involved, right?
Mhm,
Because
mhm,
it's easy to make another Conjuring. It's easy to make another Insidious. Okay, it's a cash
mhm,
cow.
mhm. Yeah.
And as horror fans that we are, I get frustrated when I see things run into the ground and the quality suffers. Because let's be serious, the Conjuring movies as they go on, they're not good. The same with Insidious. It's just as easy to talk to some of these people out here that have original material or even adaptations of stories that maybe people never heard about. For example, we just talked about The Long Walk. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
That's a really obscure short story by Stephen King. Or I think
Yes.
I
Yeah.
believe he did that under Richard
Novella. Yeah.
Bachman.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Bachman.
that's super obscure. Like if you're not a horror fan, you're not even going to really know what that was. Absolutely incredible movie. I'll probably never watch it again because it was the bleakest thing I've ever seen in my life, but
Right.
brilliantly acted, brilliantly shot, an adaptation of a story that people don't know. So you could kind of consider it original, but we don't need another, the franchisation of horror, I think for me should have stayed in the
Well,
80s and the 90s.
yeah, I mean, we do not need Scream 8. Like
No,
we
oh,
don't.
they're terrible.
We will get it. I mean, we will get a
You
Scream
will
8,
absolutely get it.
but I think you make a great point. If you look at The Long Walk, which is a 1970s
Yep.
Bachman book, I mean, I
Yep.
remember reading it, and it barely broke even in the box office, but will sit on HBO for a long time. And that's, I do that. Like make a good bleak horror movie
Yeah.
that has something to say. There's a lot of merit in the story behind that,
Yep.
and then it'll live on. And there's still a few people that are older in the industry. Did you see Sin Help, Sam Raimi?
Loved it.
So Sam Raimi I mean, he did Evil Dead. I mean, like
That's
he
right.
started out as a cheap, like
Yep.
on the cuff, and has had all the success, but still can write a horror movie that's different. It's relevant. Had a star in it,
It was
but that's
awesome.
a good story. Like it was a well done story.
And the
I thought that was the exception.
And the other thing that was brilliant about Send Help is not only was it horror, but it was I'm not a big fan of horror comedies or satires.
Right.
That was
Right.
done brilliantly. And the other thing that he did brilliantly was that he took a star in Rachel McAdams and kind of turned her on its head. That was not a role that Rachel McAdams has ever done before. So
Right.
that's a brilliant thing too, is taking a face, taking a star, somebody that you're used to seeing maybe in a romantic comedy or a genre film, and then putting her in a horror movie and making her play kind of a weirdo and making her the
Yeah.
heroine of the movie. Like that right there is an original concept.
Yeah, I think Raimi still has it. There's still a few
Yep.
directors who've been doing it a really long time. I mean, I don't even know if Wes Craven's alive anymore. We don't need anything from him anymore.
No,
Appreciate
right.
him, but it only worked because there was a risk take. Like you had
Yep,
an actress of name who was willing to play against type. It was a good story.
exactly.
Um,
That's the thing,
and
Gordon, is
yeah,
this
and
you
it.
need a
I mean,
story.
it's a year where you get that in addition to Scream and Scary Movie, whatever. And I mean, again, I'm with you. I don't do horror comedy. I didn't even
No,
see Scary Movie, whatever. It's just it's.
nope,
I'm not its chosen audience. I'll just
me
say that
neither.
it's
Yeah.
but in that, do you ever find yourself trying to convince someone this horror movie has something to say? It's not just a slasher. Like, do you have that happen to you much at all?
Yeah, well, it's funny because my son, he's a huge horror fan, like like your girls, like huge horror. So we talk about that. I have friends from work that are big horror fans, and we talk about recommending movies. And some horror movies come and go, and they you enjoy it, and then it goes. And then other movies have something to say, have something to stick with you. We just mentioned The Long Walk, a really interesting movie. I'm not going to go on record and say that it's quote unquote good, but it's interesting and it kept me captivated. And I shared it in our group. Was a movie Exit 8, the Japanese adaptation of a video game,
Yeah.
which I didn't even really know anything about it. And my son knew all about the video game. I told him about the movie. He hasn't seen it yet. The way they adapted that into an on-screen film, it kept you interested. It had something to say.
Okay.
They had some mythology behind it, like you said. Sometimes that can be tricky to create a mythology that doesn't already exist. So I think that's what I think people want to be entertained originally. And I also think too, and again, like I said at the beginning of our conversation, I think people kind of want to feel a little bit. People want to emote. And
Mhm.
I think horror is the best way to do that. Whether you are feeling scared or anxious or sad or all of that all in one, but then when the lights come on and you walk out with your buddy, you can drive home and talk about that movie, and now you can get on with your life. And you've kind of just that's why people don't understand. Like, I can't believe you watched that movie. You stay up and watch those movies. Don't you get nightmares? I'm like, no, I don't.
Yeah. Well, there's such a marriage between or a relationship between like horror movies and heavy metal hard rock. Like it's
Oh, totally.
I mean, I'm gonna go out running and listen to Slipknot, and I'm gonna get
Yep.
all that aggression out, and then I'll come back and I'll be fine
Yep.
because it's that release. And I think those guys have something to say too. Well,
Yep.
conversation for a different podcast.
Sure.
But we had recently a rash of AI films, and whereas the first Megan was okay, the second was terrible. But I remember trying to convince my wife and my daughter, let's watch Companion.
Oh,
And
so
I think
good.
Companion is a phenomenal film.
So good.
And it speaks to the whole issue, the worry, the crisis. It engendered a sense of sympathy. You can't like I really don't want to give anything away. If no one
Yeah.
has seen that, find it. I don't know where it is. Um, but it's a movie that like I mean Megan and Megan 2.0 couldn't touch. Like
No.
Companion,
Oh, no.
I spoke to the issue of where we probably will be in 10 years, and it had something to say. And budget's not too much, had
That's
enough of a face, and made money.
That's such a great point because it's easy to come up with a concept, but the real skill is developing that concept and not only saying something well and saying something entertaining, but saying something that the audience is going to believe. The word that my co-host Zeus that we always like to talk about is authenticity. We use that word a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
horror fans more than any genre, horror fans are very smart. They've seen a lot of stuff. They listen to a lot of podcasts. They read a lot of books. They know if they're being talked down to. They know if they're being treated stupidly. They know if things are coming off as heavy-handed.
Yep.
Treat them with the respect that they deserve because it'll come back in spades. Like again, we keep saying it. Backrooms and Obsession, all these fresh new movies. Horror fans and non-horror fans are attracted to those because they paid attention to the audience. They gave the audience credit. They didn't over explain. They didn't weaponize and take advantage of things. We've talked about this, Gordon, the exhausting concept of trauma horror. It's such an
Yeah.
easy thing to do. And sometimes it can be done well. And other times it's like, we get it. Okay. You lost your parents in a car accident when you were 5 years old and now you're an adult and we get that. That's a horrible thing, but make it original or don't make it at all.
Well, I think the challenge we have here is that you do get original smaller budgeted films,
Yep.
an Obsession's Backrooms, or even Megan, which I was not a huge fan of, but it was not a big budget film.
The first one was good.
Then all of a sudden,
I actually enjoyed the first Megan. I thought it was
so,
kind of clever.
um, the problem is when you get to the second one, the budget increases,
Yeah.
and Megan 2.0 is Blair Witch 2, like they're bloated
Right. Right.
messes,
Right.
and and they're expanding that universe, and the third Megan is actually like a companion, which I'm actually interested in seeing. That's going to go
Yeah.
straight to video in August.
Yeah.
But if the director of Obsession holds true and doesn't make a sequel, he might be a king. Like he really might be. Like I
Yep.
mean, like he's talking about doing an anthology or something, but he can do anything he wants right now. Every person in the world is like, here's $50 million, which
Yep.
he doesn't know what to do with.
Right.
It's like giving Robert Rodriguez a lot of money. His big budget movies are terrible. He doesn't know what to
Right.
do with it.
Yep.
And but yeah, I think the challenge is we get these good first entries, and then more money comes in, and more risk comes in, and more the studio tinkering comes in, and then you're right, the intelligent viewer is like, you're this is terrible. This is not what I'm looking for at all.
Here's a perfect example of that. One of the greatest horror movies, in my opinion, of the last 20 years is The Strangers. I find that
Oh, yeah,
terrifying.
yeah.
It's one of the most simple concepts ever created. I kind of enjoyed The Strangers Prey at Night. I thought it was kind of stupid. It was more, it was very reminiscent of like an 80s slasher. But then they come out with The Strangers Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, and they're all horrible, terrible movies. They're a stain on the franchise, but that's exactly what you say. Let's slap the name Str oh, yeah, oh, we know you like The Strangers. We're gonna give you this one, and we're gonna give you another one, and another one, and another one. They and the problem, like I mentioned with streaming is a double-edged sword, because when they make these movies that kind of stink and they bomb at the box office, a lot of these movie companies, the producers, they don't really care because they're like, oh, when that goes on Shutter, it'll go through. When that goes on Netflix,
Right.
it'll go
Right.
through the. So they feel like they can recoup any losses that they might get theatrically by waiting for it to succeed on streaming. And a lot of these do, because I listen to a lot of horror podcasts. There's a lot of talk on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram about horror, and you'll see a movie come across your feed, and you're like, oh, The Strangers Chapter 1, what's that? I'll watch it. And then you're like, well, that sucks. But now there's a Chapter 2, so I kind of have to watch that now. You know
Right,
what I
right.
mean?
I just
So
watched the most recent Strangers. Yeah, it's
yeah,
terrible.
exactly. Right.
Well, there's almost an equation between the bigger the horror budget, the worse the movie. Like it
100%.
now, don't get me wrong. There's also times where it's low budget horror, and you're like, this is no good. But as go back to Megan 2.0, you got more money. It did not help the storytelling at all in that second one. But yeah, this horror almost needs to be hungry, and then just marketed well. Like the trailer has got to see. I didn't come into the Conjuring franchise until The Nun,
Oh, okay.
because
All right.
and do you remember that trailer? It
I
had
do.
a jump scare in that trailer
Yep.
that was phenomenal.
It was awesome. I
And
agree. Yeah.
and then I found out, I'm like, oh, this is like a whole thing. And then Em and I watched like 5 of them in 3 weeks or something like that. But
Yep.
it's not a big budget. It was marketed really, really well, and that's what brought it in. That
Yeah.
that formula. But when you start getting $50 million horror movies, like, guys, you're not going to make your money, and then no one's hungry enough to do well for that.
No, and another movie that we haven't talked about because it came out a year ago, but look at Weapons. What first of all, talk about original horror. Okay, so you got original horror. You have a story that's original,
Great story. Yeah.
that hooks you in. And then you just have the incredible word of mouth. Have you seen Weapon? You have to see Weapons. You
Yeah.
have to see
Yeah.
Weapons. And then it gets nominated for an Academy Award, and it gets credibility. Again, even Sinners, which I thought was highly overrated. I thought it was okay. I didn't. I'm not one of those people that think it should have gotten all the Academy Awards. It was good, but again,
I'm with you on that.
but it was an original kind of complex story. It was cast well. That was a $50 million quote unquote horror movie. But I
That
think
was a risk. Yeah.
generally speaking, you don't want to see if you're spending $50 million on a horror movie, probably it's going to have what we talked about earlier in our conversation. It's probably going to have a big star. And usually when there's a big star, that could backfire.
Look at Jordan Peele.
Oh, I'm not going to lie. I don't mean to cut you off. I thought Get Out was fantastic. I thought Us and Nope were complete drivel, in my opinion. I didn't like either one.
You and I think I knew this of you. We've never talked about it. Get Out is what was not expensive.
Nope.
Was done really well.
It was awesome.
Us had some real promise.
It definitely did.
But then the longest exposition scene in any movie ever. I'm like, I'm not this dumb. Like you, I mean, and then Nope. I find I will never watch that again. There's no reason for me to go to it.
Terrible.
And then on a side movie, he produced a smaller movie called Him, which I thought was bad.
Terrible.
The football, yeah. And for Jordan Peele, who I know has tons of talent, needs to go in and make a $15 million movie, and do that, and let. But I don't know what's going to happen with him. He's talented. He will always have money to make a movie, but Nope is this big mess. I'm like, I don't care. It's the M. Night Shyamalan thing. You just got money, and then you just start like it just. And I still pull for M. Night. I really do. Every time he puts a movie out, I'm like, come on, man, you've got this. I believe in you.
Gordon, I consistently wave the flag for M. Night because every time he comes out with a movie, I'm excited for it, and it's kind of like the Charlie Brown getting the football pulled away from you. I want to because I like his ability to tell a story, even if it doesn't have a big giant twist like The Sixth Sense or whatever. But I like his ability to tell a story. But sometimes he just kind of like Jordan Peele. It's like, okay, we get it. You're the smartest person in the room. We get it. You don't have to reflect that into your films.
You don't have to trick me every single time.
You don't have to. I will never forget when I went to go see Knock at the Cabin, and I was watching. I'm like, what the hell am I looking at right now? Talk about this is exactly what I said. Exposition, heavy-handed, treating the audience dumb, or not even respect the audience from the get-go. These guys make movies. I feel like Jordan Peele made Nope for like himself, and had no regard for the audience that was going to go potentially go see it.
Well, let's land the plane here a little bit, Tom. So you, as always, you and I see a lot of horror. Like it's our background noise, and between Chamber of Thrills Facebook or You're Entitled Facebook, we're throwing things up there.
Yep.
What are a couple things maybe that the marketing didn't help get people into their consciousness, or just something under the radar? Doesn't have to be super obscure. You just tell me, like, here's one that maybe people just didn't see, but they're really going to enjoy.
I will say it's for people like us that are horror hounds and watching everything. The one that I will consistently wave the flag for, and if you want to engage in the entire franchise, you can. But if you want to stop it at the first movie, you won't be missing out, and that is Hell House LLC. That is a movie that is a movie that came out independently. It wasn't theatrical. I saw it on streaming. They do sell a physical version of it. That movie to this day taps into the things that I love. A bunch of no names. The director was a no name. The actors are a no name. Yes, it's found footage, but there is some regular, it's found footage, but kind of in a live action way, if that makes any sense. But I think it's got legitimate scares. It's got an original story. It has a spin on the haunted house genre. And I really think that's a movie that is going to scare people, even if you find yourself not being scared. Like, oh, nothing scares me. Nothing scares me. That is a movie. It's old. Well, old meaning, 10, 15 years old.
10, 15. Yeah.
They franchised it, and some of them are great. Some of them are not. But for people that are listening to your show that kind of want to get involved in something original, I would always push something like Hell House LLC on them. And another one that's always been a favorite of mine, and I actually turned one of my friends on at work to see it, and they really loved it too. This is not it's not found footage, and it's a little bit more higher. I'm not even sure if it was theatrical, but we've talked about it, and that's The Autopsy of Jane Doe. I think that's a really excellent supernatural thriller that, for if you're not a horror fan, flies under the radar for a lot of people.
Love it. I'll make a couple more recent recommendations.
Yeah, please.
You and I are both go watch Undertone. I believe it's on HBO.
Unbelievable. What a
No,
surprise.
no one like. I didn't like the premise when you told me podcast and this. I was like, I mean, like it. I just wanted watching it. I'm not going to tell you anything about it.
Yep.
There's a horror related type podcast. Go see Undertone. I think it's better than you will imagine.
It's excellent.
And I do love a good just popcorn horror movie. If you liked Ready or Not, go see Ready or Not too. Like
Haven't seen it yet. Haven't seen it yet.
it's fun.
Yep.
It's like the first one. It made me laugh. The
Yep.
kills are funny. It is not. It is exact. It's a popcorn horror movie for what I want a popcorn horror movie to be. Big, boisterous fun, good kills, make me laugh.
Perfect.
Like
Perfect.
not a horror comedy, but a good horror movie should make you laugh once or twice. And so, I think that's definitely worth watching. Those are two this year
Yeah.
that I think kind of underneath people's radar.
Yeah.
But if you like Ready or Not one, you definitely would like Ready or Not two.
Yeah, one thing real quick on Undertone. Again, I listen. I have a long commute for my job, so I'm driving a lot. I listen to a bunch of horror podcasts, and I heard a lot of them talking about Undertone. And I remember there was a lot of hype online for it, and people were calling it instead of a found footage movie, they were calling it a found audio movie. Which once you see it, you kind of understand what that means. And I really found the concept intriguing. That's another movie that really tapped into the things that creep me out to the point where I was like really kind of, getting creeped out. The audio of it, the music, the sonics, the way it was filmed, really, really interesting movie. That's a great recent recommendation. And I've seen the first Ready or Not. I still have not seen the second one, so that's definitely on my radar, Gordon.
Yeah, it's fun. It is. I'm hopeful. There's a couple movies coming out this year. I will probably see The Conjuring just because I'm bought in. I probably will not see it in the theater.
No.
I will. I am looking forward to the Megan spinoff. What I have read about it, I think has some real potential to it, and that's coming out streaming in August. But for the rest of the year, we're probably big budget movies. You got two Marvels in 5 months. That's insane, and they both look good. So,
Yep.
I mean, I will give them that.
The other
But
one I'm
yeah,
looking
there's
forward the other horror. I didn't mean to cut you off there. Sorry about that,
no, it's
Gordon.
fine.
The other one I'm really looking forward to, and this is strictly because it's Mike Flanagan, who I think really does an excellent job with horror. And I'm nervous about it, but he's making kind of a reboot remake of The Exorcist. I'm nervous because The
Mhm.
Exorcist Believer was horrendous. That was one of the worst things I've ever seen. If you saw that, was terrible.
You'll not
But
see it. No.
it's not good. I really, really like Mike Flanagan. I mean, his
Mhm.
movie
Yeah.
Hush, I think, is one of the most underrated movies. If you haven't seen, have you seen Hush?
No, no, you
Okay,
got me on
okay,
that. Okay,
okay. So real quick, before we wrap up, just I'll briefly tell you about
take
Hush.
your time.
So it's about a woman who lives in the woods in a cabin, and she's deaf, and she lives alone, and she has her house is all equipped for her to comfortably deal with her loss of hearing. But then a stalker gets involved, and it becomes kind of like a home invade. Becomes like kind of like a home
Okay.
invasion movie, but she's deaf. Absolutely fantastic. It's horror, but it's a high level thriller movie. Obviously, Mike Flanagan did those series on Netflix, The Haunting of Hill House, and all those other things. He's an awesome director. So I have faith that he'll be able to do something really good with The Exorcist. So
I love that. And he is such Stephen King fan. If
yes,
I'm not mistaken, he is rebooting Carrie once again.
yep. Well, he did
And
Gerald's Game too. He adapted Gerald's Game into a film, which sounds
what
impossible if you
a
ever read the book.
brutal that was the book that people deemed unfilmable. I am a Stephen King apologist. I mean,
Yep,
I've just yes, that movie. Um,
it was
and
great.
there are movies out there like that. Like people haven't seen Gerald's Game.
No,
People probably haven't seen 1912. 1912 on Netflix
I saw
is
that.
a Stephen King short story that
Very
is
good.
well worth
Yep,
the watch. It really is.
yep,
There are some movies out there. We haven't even talked about Korean horror or any of that, or Train to
yeah,
Busan or any. There are movies out there that if you will have the patience will tell great stories,
Hmm.
or in the realm of Train to Busan, it's just relentless action horror. I mean, they're just not movies made like that. That is
That's an incredible
um
movie. I mean,
yeah,
that's
yeah. Again,
that's
that's
yeah.
a Korean horror is a is a movie, a podcast in and of itself.
Yes.
Well, Tom, as always, friend, I'm so glad you're here. But tell everybody where to find you, because you are worth being found right now.
Well, thank you, Gordon. Yeah, so we do a lot of stuff. My co-host and my friend of over 30 years, Zeus. We primarily do a Kiss podcast called Shout It Out Loudcast, and we drop those episodes every Saturday. We have a spin-off podcast called Dorm Damage, which is similar to kind of some of the things that Gordon does. He's been on there. We just talk about pop culture, anything that's on our mind. We'll talk about current events, news, politics, sports. Those drop once a week as well, and then once a month we do a long form album review episode. So yeah, and I'm in the process of, if I can find the time, I would love to do my own horror podcast, something similar to what Gordon and I are doing now, but kind of focus on like a movie review type podcast. That's my goal. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, you can check us out, shoutitoutloudcast.com, and you can find out all about us.
Well, Tom, thanks as always. And friends, two Facebook groups that you might want to consider if you want to go to Chamber of Thrills. Tom and I are very active on there. That is horror.
Yep.
And then I have one called "You're Entitled to Your Opinion," which is really broad,
Yep.
but it's typically left of center. I mean, if you wanted to talk mainstream, you could, but a lot of times I'll just on a Saturday say, "This is my office watch." And then people will hop in like, I hated it, I loved it, consider that. So
Yep.
two places where your opinion is respected as long as you're not hateful. So you can say, I'm a scary movie tard, and we're gonna be like, that's why they make them. So good, good for you.
Exactly.
So
That's right.
all right, everybody go to Shout It Out Loudcast this Saturday. If you like Kiss, but forewarning, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a ride when you get there. So,
Yes, it will.
Tom, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Gordon. Always appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, man.